All right, everybody, let's just get still for a hot second. Take a breath. Joel Goldsmith would often start by looking out at a crowd just like this, not seeing a bunch of separate people with separate problems, but seeing one thing: a hunger, a deep, real hunger for something that actually works. So, for all my seekers in the room today, lean in. I'm about to drop some serious truth bombs straight from the man himself. We all have that one thing, right? That one massive problem that's always in our face, messing with our vibe, stealing our peace. It's like a pop-up ad from hell that you just can't close. You've tried everything, manifesting affirmations, maybe even yelling at the universe, and you're left thinking, there's got to be a better way. Well, hold up, because there is. Joel cracked the code on this. He found a prayer so slick, so powerful, it doesn't bother fighting your problems. Nah, that's small-time stuff. This prayer, it straight up dissolves them like poof, gone. It doesn't ask for a better situation. It pulls the rug out from under the whole messed up situation itself. We're about to dive deep into the one prayer that flips the script on everything you thought you knew about dealing with life's crap. So, there you have it. The master key. It ain't about begging, it's about knowing. It's about realizing the problem was never really out there to begin with. It was always just a shadow. And this prayer, it's the light switch. Now, here's my question to you. What happens when you stop seeing problems and start seeing only God? What kind of reality kicks in when that becomes your default setting? The real magic starts after you hit that subscribe button and dive into the next lesson. So if this hit different for you today, do the damn thing, smash that like button, drop a comment with the number, symbolize that perfect, complete rest in spirit, and subscribe so you don't miss the next level of this teaching. Let's get this journey poppin'. Peace. It straight up dissolves them. Like poof, gone. It doesn't ask for a better situation, it pulls the rug out from under the whole messed up situation itself. And that brings us to the first and most critical piece of the puzzle. You have to understand this one thing if anything else is gonna make sense. You are fighting a shadow. Let that sink in. You are spending all your energy, all your emotional bandwidth, wrestling with a phantom. Think about what a shadow is. It has no substance. You can't grab it. You can't punch it. If you try to fight it, you're just tiring yourself out swinging at nothing. That's exactly what we're doing 99% of the time with our problems. We're in the ring, getting our butt kicked by something that has no real power of its own. We see a financial crisis, a health scare, a relationship blowing up, and we react to it as this solid, real, terrifying thing. We accept its reality without a second thought. So we go into battle mode. We strategize, we worry, we scheme. We plead with God to come in and fight this monster on our behalf. We're like a guy in a movie, desperately trying to stab a monster made of smoke. It's exhausting and it never, ever works. Why? Because you're giving all your power to the illusion. The moment you accept the problem as a real, independent entity, you've already lost the war. You've made it solid. You've given it a name, a shape, and a lease on your mental real estate. You're now a slave to a ghost. Your entire consciousness becomes consumed by this shadow play, this drama that feels so incredibly real. You're trying to rearrange the shadows on the wall of your life, thinking that if you just move this one or block out that one, you'll finally be happy. But you're still in the cave staring at the wall. The spiritual journey, the real one that Joel points to, isn't about becoming a better shadow boxer. It's not about finding a brighter light to make the shadows look prettier. It's about turning around. It's the radical, almost unthinkable act of turning your back on the shadow completely and facing the light that's casting it. The problem, the shadow, only exists because of a misperception in the mind. It exists because we are looking at life through a filter of separation, believing that we are here and God is out there, and this big, bad problem is over there. The problem isn't the thing itself. The problem is your belief in the thing as a power opposed to God, opposed to good. The moment you withdraw that belief, the moment you stop feeding the shadow with your fear and your attention, it has nothing to sustain it. It can't live in the environment of a mind that knows only one power, one presence. This is the ultimate switcheroo. It's not about solving the crisis in your bank account. It's about realizing that the presence of God is your actual substance, your supply, and that the bank account is just a shadow on the wall. It's not about healing the sick body. It's about knowing that the life of God is the only true reality of your being, and the body is just a temporary, shadowy expression of that. You don't fight the sickness, you turn to the life. You don't fight the lack, you turn to the abundance. The shadow wasn't defeated. It was simply exposed as nothing because you finally stopped looking at it and started looking at the light. You don't fight the sickness, you turn to the life. You don't fight the lack, you turn to the abundance. The shadow wasn't defeated. It was simply exposed as nothing because you finally stopped looking at it and started looking at the light. Now, this is where it gets really interesting and where most minds hit a wall. Because the next natural question is, okay, so how do I turn to the light? What do I actually do? And this is the cosmic curveball, the beautiful paradox that changes everything, the very problem that is causing you so much pain and anxiety. That shadow you've been fighting is not an obstacle to your prayer. It is, in fact, the very doorway. The problem itself becomes the prayer. Sit with that for a moment. Don't rush past it. The ache in your heart, the knot in your stomach, the frantic noise in your mind, these are not signs that you have failed or that God is absent. They are the raw material, the sacred invitation. They are the exact point where the sense of separation is screaming so loudly that it finally forces you to stop looking for an answer out here in the world of effects and to turn within. You see, we usually think of prayer as something we do separate from our problem. We have the problem over here, and then we set aside a few minutes to pray about it over there. We bring our list of desires and fears to God like a customer placing an order. But that kind of prayer just reinforces the separation. It keeps the problem solid and real, and it positions God as a distant vendor who might or might not fulfill our request. The prayer Joel is pointing to is something entirely different. It is a sudden, gentle shift of recognition right in the midst of the turmoil. It is the moment you stop seeing the problem as a thing to be fixed, and instead recognize it as a call to remember the truth. The fear doesn't become a signal to panic, it becomes a signal to go quiet. The lack doesn't become a signal to strive harder, it becomes a signal to rest in the awareness of infinite substance. When the feeling of loneliness washes over you, that very feeling is the prayer. It is your soul's homing device activating, not to find another person, but to feel the divine presence that is your eternal companion. When the pain arises, that sensation is the prayer. It is not something to hate or resist, but a profound reminder that your true identity is not a fragile body, but the incorruptible, peaceful essence of spirit. You are not using words to ask for a change, you are using the circumstance itself as the catalyst to sink deeper into what you are. The problem, by its very intensity, what burns away the superficial and forces you to confront the only real question: what is true here, beneath this appearance? What is the nature of the I that is aware of this pain, this fear? You aren't praying about the problem, you are praying as from within the problem. The problem provides the energy, the urgency that propels you beneath the surface of your own thinking. It is the fire that refines, and in the heat of it, the sense of a separate self begins to soften and melt away, leaving only a profound silent awareness. This awareness is the answered prayer. It doesn't necessarily change the outer form instantly, though it often does. What it changes irrevocably is your relationship to the form. You find yourself in a profound peace, not because the storm has passed, but because you have discovered the utter stillness that exists at its very center. You find yourself in a profound peace, not because the storm has passed, but because you have discovered the utter stillness that exists at its very center. This brings us to the bedrock of it all, the truth that redefines the entire universe. We have been laboring under a colossal misunderstanding. We have been treating God like a cosmic repairman. We call out, "God, my life is broken! Come fix it! God, my world is falling apart! Come patch it up!" We are pointing to the shadows on the wall and begging the light to adjust them for us. But listen closely, because this will shatter every limitation you've ever accepted. God is not a fixer. God is the only fact. God is not a solution you apply to a problem. God is the very substance and reality in which the so-called problem appears as a temporary, illusory shadow. You are not asking a separate being to intervene in your separate life. You are waking up to the truth that there is only one life, and that life is God, and that life is your life right now. This is not a philosophical idea. This is the most practical truth you will ever encounter. When you are faced with sickness, you are not facing a powerful reality that God must now battle. You are facing an appearance that is contradicting the one and only fact, which is the perfect, harmonious, spiritual life of God expressing as you. The prayer then is not, "God, please come heal this body." The prayer is the quiet, unwavering acknowledgement that God is the only life here. You are not bringing God into the situation, you are acknowledging that God is the situation, and anything that contradicts that is simply not true, has no law to support it and no power to maintain its illusion. You are standing on the rock of what is, while the storm of what appears to be rages around you. Apply this to lack. The world screams, "There is not enough!" It points to bank statements and empty cupboards as its proof. But the fact remains, God is infinite, ever-present substance. It is the very fabric of all being. So you do not pray, "God, give me more." You pray from the knowing, "God, you are my abundant supply. I am one with that infinite source right now." You are not a beggar asking for a crumb from a king's table. You are the child who realizes it has always been seated at the table, and the entire feast is its inheritance. The appearance of lack is the shadow. The unshakable fact is the infinite provision of the source. Your prayer is the act of withdrawing your belief from the shadow and placing your entire faith on the fact. This is what it means to seek first the kingdom. You are seeking the reality of God as the reality of your situation. And when you do this, the shadows, the sickness, the lack, the fear, lose their seeming solidity. They have to, because they never had any reality of their own to begin with. They were only ever your misperception, your belief in something outside of or opposed to the one divine fact. You are not fixing a broken world. You are realizing there is nothing in the kingdom of God to fix, only the eternal, perfect fact to acknowledge and rest in. Of course, here is the expansion of Keynote number 4, continuing the flow and tailored with a mindful, encouraging tone. You are realizing there is nothing in the kingdom of God to fix, only the eternal, perfect fact to acknowledge and rest in. So how do you make this shift? How do you move from being a person with a problem, begging for help, to being the very embodiment of that peaceful knowing? You have to flip the entire script. Your entire life, you've been taught to plead, to pray from a place of need, from a sense of emptiness, reaching out for something you believe you lack. Please, God, give me health. Please, God, give me money. Please, God, fix my family. This is the prayer of a stranger, a separate self talking to a separate God, and it will never, ever get you to the other shore. It keeps you locked in the cycle of seeking because you are affirming your lack with every single word. The revolutionary prayer, the one that dissolves the problem, is not a prayer of pleading. It is a prayer of knowing. It is not something you do, it is something you are. It is a conscious alignment with what is already and always true. Think of a mother with her newborn child. The baby is crying, and the mother doesn't stand across the room and shout, "Please, stop crying! I hope someone stops that crying!" She moves. She gathers the child into her arms. She doesn't introduce comfort from the outside. She brings the child into the atmosphere of the comfort that she herself is. Your prayer is that same movement. You are not shouting at God from a distance. You are gathering your awareness, your fearful, troubled, confused awareness, and you are drawing it inward, into the very arms of the presence that you are right now. This is where your wisdom, your life experience becomes your greatest power. For those who feel the world has passed them by or that their bodies are no longer as strong, this is your moment. This work requires no physical strength, only the spiritual strength of attention. It is the quiet, mighty work of the soul. And for the incredible women here, the nurturers, the caregivers, you already understand this language intuitively. You know how to hold a space of love, how to be a calming presence. This prayer is that, for yourself, it is mothering your own soul. It is holding your own fear in the arms of your faith until it settles into peace. You flip the script the moment you stop saying, "God, please give me peace," and you start abiding in the silent affirmation, "I am peace because you are my peace." You stop crying out, "God, I am so weak and tired," and you sink into the powerful truth, "The infinite strength of the universe is my strength. It is my vitality. It flows through me now." You are not asking for a new outcome. You are claiming your identity as the outcome of God's own being. You are not a wave begging the ocean to be wet. You are the wave realizing it is, and always has been, the ocean itself. This knowing is not arrogant. It is the most humble surrender there is, because you are surrendering your small, separate sense of self and accepting the magnificent truth of what God has already made you to be. This is the flip. This is where you stop being a victim of circumstance and start being the living proof of a higher principle. This is the flip. This is where you stop being a victim of circumstance and start being the living proof of a higher principle. And when you make that shift, when you truly move from pleading to a state of surrendered knowing, something miraculous begins to happen. The entire dynamic of your life changes. You see, in this higher understanding, the answer doesn't just respond to the question. It completely dissolves it. Think of a child who is terrified of a monster in the closet. The parent doesn't need to fight the monster, wrestle it, or even prove it doesn't exist with logical arguments. The parent simply turns on the light. In that instant, the monster vanishes. The question, "How do I defeat the monster?" becomes meaningless. It is a question that can only exist in the context of darkness. The light didn't answer the question. It erased the very conditions that made the question possible. This is the profound secret. The presence of God, the conscious awareness of the one divine life as your only reality, is that light. The problems we face, the fear, the lack, the sickness, are all questions that can only exist in the darkness of a sense of separation. They are puzzles constructed by the ego, and the ego's greatest trick is convincing you that you must solve its puzzles to be free. But you cannot solve a spiritual problem on the level of the problem. You can't use the mind that believes in the problem to fix the problem. That's like trying to use a tangled rope to untangle itself. The moment you bring the light of awareness, the conscious knowing of God's presence, into the situation, the question itself begins to lose its shape, its power, its very reason for being. Your prayer of knowing doesn't give you a new financial strategy, it reveals the infinite substance of God as your present supply, making the anxiety over a bank statement seem small and distant. It doesn't necessarily manipulate the physical body according to your desires. It reveals your true identity as incorruptible spirit, and the body then aligns with that higher harmony to the greatest degree possible. The pain might remain for a time, but the suffering, the mental anguish, the fear, the story of my illness, that can fall away. The problem was never the physical sensation, the problem was the terrifying narrative you built around it. The light of truth dissolves the narrative, so do not look for a one, to one correspondence for a specific packaged answer to drop from the sky, that is still looking for a better shadow. Instead, rest in the knowing. Abide in the light. Trust that as you persist in this abiding, the questions that have tormented you will simply cease to have any weight, any hook in your consciousness. They will be seen for what they always were: phantoms, temporary formations in the midst of a misperception. The answer is not a thing, it is a state of being. And in that state of being, the questions that once defined your struggle are not solved, they are seen as irrelevant, as echoes from a dream from which you are now, fully and completely, awakening. The answer is not a thing, it is a state of being. And in that state of being, the questions that once defined your struggle are not solved, they are seen as irrelevant, as echoes from a dream from which you are now, fully and completely, awakening. And this brings us to the root of it all, the one fundamental lie that gives birth to every shadow of trouble we will ever face. It is the silent, aching, unquestioned assumption that we are separate from God. This is the original wound, the primal ache that fuels every other problem in our lives. Every single fear, every bout of loneliness, every wave of lack or sickness is just a symptom of this one core misbelief. We feel like a single, lonely drop of water, desperately trying to get back to the ocean, not realizing we have never, for one instant, been apart from it. We think we are a separate self, a fragile ego, navigating a dangerous world, and that God is a distant figure we must somehow reach, please, or persuade. But I am here to tell you that this sense of separation is the only problem you have ever had. There are not 1,000 different problems in your life. There is only one, wearing 1,000 different costumes. The moment you pull back the curtain on this one great lie, the entire production falls apart. The entire play of pain and struggle requires this central character, the separate self, to be on stage. When that character is seen as an illusion, the play is over. The drama cannot continue. This is the ultimate healing. This is what it means to be saved, to be made whole. It is not the improvement of the separate self. It is the glorious, gentle fading of the very sense of separation itself. When you feel that ache of loneliness, it is not a call to find another person. It is a call to realize your eternal, inseparable union with the divine presence. When you feel fear, it is not a signal that the world is dangerous. It is a reminder that you have forgotten you are one with the only power there is. The entire human experience, with all its pain and its beauty, is a curriculum designed to lead you back to this one moment of recognition, to the stunning, quiet, happy realization that you and the Father are one. There is no space between you. There is no gap to be closed. There is no prayer needed to bring you together, only a grateful acknowledgement of the union that has always been your true state of being. In this light, your life becomes a beautiful, unfolding journey of remembering. Every challenge is no longer a threat, but a loving nudge from your own soul, guiding you gently back to the truth of who you are. You begin to see the face of God in everything and everyone, because you are no longer looking out from a place of separation, but from a place of joyous, unified wholeness. The search is over. The struggle has fulfilled its purpose and melted away. You are home. You have always been home. And from this place of perfect peace and quiet happiness, only one question remains to be gently pondered in the heart. If you truly knew, in this very moment, that you were one with an infinite, loving intelligence that is orchestrating all of life for your ultimate good, what problem could you possibly have?